Stop me if you've heard this one. A spaceship, a volcano, and a moai head walk into a bar. The bartender says shoot the core, and the volcano nods like that's just Tuesday. Gradius Origins is pure arcade brain. Tight patterns, mean checkpoints, and the guilty joy of finally slotting options like you're building a tiny death choir. It's also a museum piece with a pulse. The collection covers 7 arcade games across 18 regional board variants, slaps in a brand new Salamander III, and lets you tinker with modern comforts without sanding off the old school edge. That's the pitch. The argument is whether Origins feels complete without 4, 5, and Gaiden. Short version, it rules, but it's not the whole shrine. Let's set the stage. Konami shipped Gradius Origins on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC on August 7, 2025, with a features list that actually respects your time. Quick save, quick load, rewind, easy and training modes, invincible mode for lab work and online rankings. That's on top of visual sound galleries and multiple board region versions per title, including the curiosity bait Gradius 3am show version finally landing at home. If you've ever stared at a PCB revision list like it's sacred scripture, this package is going to make you emotional. Now, the two tectonic plates this collection sits on, M2's portwork and Salamander III. On Switch especially, input lag is the grim reaper of shmups. Nintendo Life points out M2's sorcery keeps these versions snappy and close to arcade feel. Tactile is the word, and it matters when a single frame decides whether you thread a bullet weave or audition as confetti. M2's usual gadgets are here: hitbox displays, auto-fire tuning, leaderboards, the whole lab coat. But they also make a choice. Salamander III doesn't get rewind or cheat your way through toggles. It wants a fair fight. Purists will fist bump. Tourists might pout. Frankly, that boundary keeps the new stuff honest. Speaking of the new stuff, Salamander III isn't a slapdash bonus stage. It's the headliner. Way Too Many Games goes as far as calling it the best looking and best performing piece in the set. A modern feeling throwback with crisp readability. And that Salamander swagger, stack pickups, get spicy erase mistakes with momentum. The flip side. Because it's modern, it lacks a few training wheels the older games now enjoy, but its baseline fairness softens the blow. Even if you still love Salamander II's arcade charisma more, Salamander III gives the set a beating heart and a reason to exist beyond preservation. Here's where reviewers start sparring our bread and butter. Camp A says this is as good as Gradius has ever felt at home. Low lag, clean scaling options, and a stack of variants that teaches you why same game, different board, can radically shift difficulty curves. Nintendo Life even singles out how the collection warns you that Gradius 3 will grind you into powder, and then hands you accessibility levers to learn instead of suffer. That's considerate curation, not just a ROM zip. Camp B counters. Calling it Origins is cute until you remember 4, 5, Gaiden, Rebirth, and Solar Assault exist. Metacritic's roundup captures the mood, scores in the low 80s, with praise for Salamander 3 and the museum-like options, but recurring grumbles that the set stops at 3. If you wanted a definitive everything box, this isn't it. It's more like a razor-focused anthology of the arcade era plus one new encore. Is that a flaw or a mission statement? Depends on whether you measure value by historical span or by execution quality. Let's talk feel, because shmups live and die on sensation. Gradius is the power meter brain burner. Collect pips, cash out at the right time, and pray you don't lose your build in stage 4 and spend the next 3 minutes negotiating with gravity. Salamander is the rockstar cousin, instant pickups, vertical horizontal swaps, and a vibe that says, what if a biology textbook tried to kill you? The collection lets both identities breathe. Easy and training modes aren't just accessibility. They're tools to actually learn routes, boss milks, and recovery plans. Invincible mode is your sketchpad. The goal isn't to beat the game immortal, it's to practice until mortal is enough. Value check US angle. On Switch, the eShop lists it at $39.99. That's not pocket change for a retro bundle, but the package isn't phoned in. 18 versions, granular options, and a new game that isn't a cynical extra. Compare it to slapdash compilations with high latency and no training tools, and you start to see why people are calling this Konami's best modern retro effort. Veteran Games' blunt verdict. If you're even shmup curious, the cost per hour of learning curves and leaderboard climbing justifies the sticker. If you only want Gradius V today, this won't scratch that itch. Rapid fire tips to make your ego bleed less. Start in Salamander Life Force to build confidence, no power meter, faster recoveries. Then graduate to Gradius 2 and 3 once your root discipline sets in. Use training to lab boss patterns and power up timing. Your first 1cc lives or dies on when you buy speedups and options. When Salamander 3 tempts you to brute force, remember it's modern tuned, patience beats panic. Also, don't be ashamed of easy mode. Even the old heads lab on reduced heat before they go for score runs, now the spicy bit. The best argument for Origins is preservation with purpose. M2 didn't just bundle the first 3 and call it a day. They reconstructed board revisions and regional quirks so you can feel how the 80s and 90s iterated arcade difficulty live, not in a museum plaque. The best argument against is that by stopping at 3, Konami guarantees a sequel collection to sell you later. Both can be true. As a working theory, Origins reads like phase 1 of a 2-part plan. Origins now, evolution later. If that's the trajectory, I can live with it, as long as the execution stays this sharp. If this kind of no BS deep dive is your thing, hitch a ride with Veteran Game and hit subscribe. Toss a like if you've ever stared down a Moai and muttered, "Not today." Final stance. Strong recommend for fans and newcomers who value feel, tooling, and a worthy new Salamander. Cautious buy if your heart belongs specifically to Gradius 4 to 5. Now let's fight in the comments. Would you rather have this surgical arcade era plus new sequel cut? Or would you trade Salamander 3 for a bigger, messier, everything until PS2 box?